This is the painting process for the Dominatrix Squad book by Asher Lake. It's available now on Amazon. This is, in my opinion, my best work to date. I spent a lot of time on this project. Even if this goes by in about 10 minutes, it accounts for about 24 hours of work, and that doesn't count the pencils and the inks that I did beforehand. The first part of this process is for me to use the method of Kurt Russel, the comic colorist. His method is to pick a dominant mood color. It just happened, by the way. Then map out the different basic colors of the figures. Then use the color wheel to choose the individual colors that match best with the local colors and the background. The actual process of picking the color happens in a blink on this video, but it just records the individual clicks. The process of me picking the color takes much more time to get right. This process of picking the colors and doing it like I just did it solved a big problem I've had with coloring since I was a kid, working with colored pencils up until earlier this year. This process unifies the entire piece and allows me to control more than ever the unified look of the piece. The background in this piece is on a layer, and you can see that sometimes I make it visible and sometimes I'll remove it. It's just a way of comparing the color and getting different eyes on how this is all turning out. I painted the background a couple of years ago for the first book, Dominatrix Boss. The idea was to create a background that I could use over and over again to unify the look of the book covers, and it saves me a lot of time. Once I have the basic colors picked, I work from midtones to the darkest tones, and then from the midtones to the lightest tones. I choose a color based on the basic color, but a little darker and a little cooler to go towards the darker colors. Then I go another step darker and finally to almost black. You can see right now that I'm going through and slowly choosing darker tones, mostly using, in this case, I'm using purple. The background is purple, and I used purple a lot for my shadow work. You can see me filling in all of the darker tones on Ava's top, and then I'll go down into her skirt and fill in the darker pieces on there. I've already done the work on her hair, and now it looks like what I'm doing is going to the lighter tones on Mitzi. You notice that I played around with a few things before I found what I wanted. I wanted her, Mitzi's sweater to look like it was corded, but I had to find the right brush to make that happen. Here I am working on the highlights of Ava's top, and then did the highlights of her leather skirt. And you notice the difference between Mitzi's leather skirt and Ava's leather skirt versus the latex that I did on Tony. And yeah, now I'm just checking to see what my original pencils were like, to make sure that I get the patterns correct. So I left Tony until last because her skin tone is different, and I had a heck of a time getting her to look like she's in the same light as the other two. And what I learned is that going darker on her was not how I defined her skin tone. It was in coloring the light on her. That's what really brought her out, was to focus in on all of the light that's going on her face. And you can also see that in her hair. Her hair took on great dimensions when I began to paint the light in on her hair. And that was a big learning process for me, is to kind of figure out how to do this stuff and make it all look like it's in the same environment, and hopefully make everyone look, I wanted everyone to look great. And so I'm really happy with the way that this thing came out, but it took a lot of experimentation and a lot of work for me to get it to this point. You notice that with Tony's latex, this last little step of putting that white in is really what makes it look like latex. And it's different from the process that I use on Ava and Mitzi. The last step of painting is to do highlights, which are the brightest color in this piece. In this case of Tony's latex outfit, that becomes a dramatic last step that I saved till the end. The last two frames of this video are the characters put together for the cover, and then the final full-size print cover with all the titles, logos, and texts. I designed everything on the cover and put them together, so I was illustrator and designer on this project.